Welcome to another episode of Digital Detox Secrets. My name is Lisa Beyer and I'll be your host. Today's guest is Mel Carson. Mel and I met when we first spoke on a panel in London for a conference called Search Engine Strategies. At the time, Mel was an evangelist with Microsoft. Today, he owns his own PR agency called Delightful, and in this episode, we talk about everything from content to public relations to social media. This episode was originally recorded for my class that I taught at University of Florida on social media management. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I can't even believe it. We are here, and it's week 12, and we have our special guest, Mel Carson. He is, as you know, the author of our personal branding book that we've been reading all semester. Hey, Mel.
Hello, this one.
Yep, that one. They're finishing up this week. So we've been reading a few chapters here and there, and this week we're 100% dedicated this week to personal branding and also productivity and creativity. So
Wonderful.
Thank you for
and thank you to everybody for reading the book and all that Twitter storm a few weeks ago. That was amazing. As an author, it feels really good that people are reading the book, not only just reading it, but sharing insights and what really resonated with them. So thank you, Lisa, for passing it on to your students as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for all your expertise. So hey everybody, hey, we're checking in right now. So we have I think Celine is here. How are you? Good morning, good afternoon actually. Mel is coming all the way you're in Seattle, right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. And I'm here in Celebration. And the students here in this class, they're graduate students from, we have a student in Alaska, we have somebody in Hawaii, we have some overseas, I think in China or Japan, some are in Florida, but pretty much like a little bit of everywhere. Some in Miami. Hey, Cassie. Hey, Carrie. So I told them ahead of time that we were going to be live and that if they wanted to ask any questions, they could go ahead and put them in the comments. So feel free to, if you have any questions that you want to queue up, put them in the comments here and I'll put them up and Mel can answer them. But Mel, let's just, kind of get started with, you wrote this book, Personal Branding, a couple years ago, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so what's new? What are kind of the latest trends when it comes to personal branding that you can add to what we've already read in your book? And if you're a college grad or some of these are, most of these are grad students getting ready to either switch careers or add to their careers, what do you recommend?
So I wrote the book a couple of years ago. I actually started doing the personal branding thing. I mean, it talks about it in the book about 6 years ago after I left Microsoft, because I was trying to figure out, all right, if I start my own agency or my own business, how can I help other people? And so it was very nascent in those days. And in the last couple of years since the book came out, we've just seen, a lot more inquiries from people either within companies that want to grow their careers within companies. I'm doing a presentation next week for a big software technology company that is interested in really investing in its internal teams on their personal brands of how they come across within their business. But then externally, just a lot more inquiries from people right across the board, from 55-year-old CEOs of a healthcare company that are figuring out that, gosh, I've only got 10, 15 years left of my career and I really desperately want to do something else. How do I do that? All the way to graduates coming out of school. And one of my favorite things that I do every summer is go and give a talk at the Girls Who Code camp, which they have them in several of the big companies here in Seattle. So I get to talk to 15 to 19-year-olds, sometimes like 40 of them, and give them a talk on how important it is to think about the impression that you're making with people, and it's quite funny because you often see them on their phones. And initially, when I first did it, I thought that was a bit rude. I'm trying to give a talk and you're on your phone. But I got these messages later saying that they were deleting old photo bucket accounts from 7th grade. So, I mean, we're just seeing a lot more interest in it. It's a lot easier now to create your own digital footprint with, in the old days, WordPress, you needed a little bit of, coding skills and understanding about HTML, but a lot of um, the graduates that we're taking on at Delightful, or that we see coming in as interns, a lot of them have their own personal website, which is very, very impressive to me. And they're going to Squarespace or GoDaddy or Wix or something like that to create it. So it's becoming more of a thing, especially as the world of work is changing. And with the gig economy and the fact that people realize that if they join a company, they're not going to be with that company necessarily for the next 30 years. They might be there for 18 months to 3 years, and therefore building a personal brand on the side to make sure that they're, as we say in the book, discoverable, shareable, and memorable, is more and more important.
Yeah, a couple things, and two interesting things that you noted on. One is the fact that companies are now openly supporting personal branding, where it was
Mm-hmm.
almost like, maybe even 5 years ago, to make your LinkedIn profile optimized, that might draw attention from your current employer, and that
Yeah.
might send the wrong message. But I think it's still a little bit mixed, because I was talking to one of my students yesterday, and a lot of people now are, trying to establish their personal brand. And also they might be working at, let's just say, Microsoft, and they might have their own side hustle that's, they're not sure if it's going to work out to be like a business that they can just go to and rely on 100%. But there's the side hustles happening, where the personal branding is important. And there's also just the support from basically, businesses. So I think that is a huge shift.
Yeah. When I first started doing it 6 years ago, there were, there was a lot of kind of frowning of, well, if I help my employees be more discoverable, then someone's going to come along and poach them. Well, that's not really the point. If you are actually creating an environment of learning and growth for your employees, and you're paying them well, and over here, I'm from England, where benefits is anathema, because we have the National Health Service, but I know that in the US, certainly benefits are important. If you're getting all that right, the benefits of having employees advocate for your brand, employee advocacy is huge now with tools like Sociable and LinkedIn Elevate. Actually giving your employees the permission and the opportunity to go out there and be influencers and evangelists for whatever it is that their expertise is in the business, far outweighs any chance of them getting poached by another company. I think what we've seen over the last 6 years is a big shift towards people realizing that people really are their best asset. And if they can create an environment for them to learn and grow and thrive, then setting them up and setting them out there to talk about the company, their expertise, what they do, they end up being advocates for the brand, but they also end up being influencers in that particular space, which has a positive effect on the company and the brand as it is. I mean, personally, I'm a good example of that for the work that I did at Microsoft years ago. But I also think, people like Jason Miller from LinkedIn. He has, a fantastic personal brand where he's very useful, he's very helpful, he's interesting, and he's a rock photographer with 1,000 tattoos, and he's just completely not what you would expect a company like LinkedIn to be pushing out there into the fray. But he's done an amazing job, and recently just announced that he's moving to Bing Ads. So it's not like he's been poached by a company other than Microsoft that obviously owns Bing and LinkedIn. So yeah, we're seeing a lot more companies really getting this kind of thing, and it's very exciting.
Jason's a great example. He was actually one of our guests from not this semester, but a previous semester. And I'm
Right.
going to, reminding me, I'm going to go ahead and share that with this semester because his insights, even though it was a couple of years ago, are still very solid when it comes to establishing your brand on LinkedIn. And
Yep.
speaking of LinkedIn, our assignment this week is establishing your personal brand on your LinkedIn profile. So, I mean, there's the typical cover image, profile image tips that, you can kind of see anywhere, but what are some, maybe some creative tips that you can give to really stand out on your LinkedIn profile that maybe not everybody's doing?
Yep. So I think, one of the big things that we work on with people is their story. Their summary is 2,000 characters. So you can write a pretty good story in there where people set out your stall in the first person, where people can get a really good idea of who you are, what you're about, what's your mission, what's the audience, that you're trying to reach, and what's the value that you bring. And I think people miss that opportunity, because if people are going to search for you, they're probably going to search for you on one of these, and being able to just scroll through a few paragraphs, getting to know that person from a that human perspective is really important. Then there's the old things around adding any there's the whole media thing where you can add in videos that you might have been on, YouTube links, or articles that you might have written, or news articles that you might have been involved with. That adds a bit of color, again, draws the eye. If you look at mine, I think I've put on my summary and my current job as founder of Delightful, some of the articles that I've been mentioned in, some of the bigger ones in like Fast Company or the Wall Street Journal and things like that. So that helps, again, double down, because what you're trying to do on LinkedIn is push the envelope of everything, of all the features that they're putting out there, and make you stand out. So not a lot of people use the full 2,000 characters for their summary. Not a lot of people use the media section that you can add those links. And then obviously the big one now is video. That it doesn't take a lot of money or a lot of time or a lot of resources to put together a video of you talking or you interviewing somebody else, within your niche, or, thinking about what message you're trying to get across. But those algorithms love video. So whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, I mean, we did something for an executive the other day from a big cloud tech company, and it was a 6-second looping video just introducing the fact that he was going to be speaking at a conference in I think it was in Australia. And we threw this thing up there, and we linked a couple of the partners and the companies that he was going to be talking to. 6-second video. It looped, it got, I don't know, 10,000 views, 50 likes, about 10 comments, all this kind of stuff. So videos obviously very, very hot as well. And then the other thing is, I'm always very, very conscious that when people think of their personal brand, they think that they need to be broadcasting the whole time. I think that it's very, very important to make sure that you're engaging with people, and engaging with people that either will be good partners or of use to you or your business, or in your job search, or within your internal search within a business for a mentor, or someone to engage with and take a relationship further. So actually engaging with people, reading other people's stuff, commenting, liking authentically. Don't just do it for the sake of it. But I think that finding the balance between broadcasting and actually engaging and reading other people's stuff is hugely important. And it's just the discipline of having something like this. So instead of, I don't know, what you do in the Starbucks line, or waiting for a bus, or whatever, but having the phone there and having the discipline to check what's going on LinkedIn with your network, at least once a day, I think is cool.
What are your thoughts on creating so Dennis Yu was our guest a couple weeks ago talking about social advertising, but he also touched a little bit on personal branding. Part of his advice was creating your, we all actually for the project created our own Facebook page for as a public figure or personal brand. So any tips, as it pertains to Facebook, personal Facebook pages for a personal brand?
Um, I, 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 it's a good thing because it means that it shows that my phone keeps going off. Excuse me. I think it's a good thing. I've not done it. Probably because it's a bit of bit of a time crunch because I want to make sure that I'm dedicating enough time to actually make it work, because there's nothing worse than going to someone's Facebook page and seeing that they haven't updated it in years or months. It's obviously good for boosting posts. So if you get enough followers of you on that particular platform, then it's good for boosting those posts to get some extra visibility with the things that you're putting out there. I think as part and parcel of a personal brand strategy, yes, it could be pretty good. Maybe if you don't have the proclivity or the wherewithal to have your own website, then a Facebook page dedicated to your professional work and your niche and whatever it is that you want to do is pretty good. But I don't think I've necessarily lost out by not having one, because I've found as the years go on, the Facebook algorithm kind of knows that if I'm posting something about search engine marketing or digital or whatever, their algorithm seems to know, okay, that's Mel's set of industry friends over here that need to, his sister-in-law in the countryside of, England doesn't necessarily need to see this. But
Okay.
I'm definitely also about owning your own name. And we talked about this when I started Delightful, that, having your own website and, when someone Googles or Bings your name, having something that shows up and being able to own that real estate. It's a bit difficult if your name's John Smith or I don't know, Sandra Bullock or something. You're going to get into a little bit of trouble there because, obviously some people have names that, jive with celebrities or sports people. But actually owning your own name and having your own real estate, because we never know what's going to happen with some of these platforms. We invest so much time and energy in Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, and then something happens to them and they merge with something else and the algorithms change then. But we're hoping that if we have our own website, that will be a constant, that but you never know what Google will do with that either. So
Yeah, so true. What about having an identity, like a brand identity, almost like a system, like a business would have? So a logo or colors or things like that. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, I like that idea, because again, that shows that you're going the extra mile. Again, it's not cost prohibitive anymore. You can go on Upwork, or if you're working in a university, just trot over to the graphic design or the user experience lab and find someone there and buy them dinner to come up with something like that, so they've got some experience. But we, for Delightful, we spent a lot of time working on our kind of logo and brand. So it's kind of red, white, and grey. And what I've done is, I call it a motif. On my personal website, melcarson.com, it's the same colors. So, whether you go from melcarson.com to Delightful, they're the same colors. And then I always try, when I go out, not when I'm traipsing around the house, but when I go out and I'm networking or something, I'll always try and have some element of red on me, whether that's red shoes or red shoelaces or a red handkerchief or something like that, because it just makes it pop. So I think, I think that's a good idea. And it's only going to get more prevalent as the barriers to people thinking and creating that kind of stuff come across.
If you're familiar with Eliza Licht, she was one of our the author of our book Leave Your Mark.
Yeah.
She's not 100% on personal branding, but she talks a lot about personal branding. So her signature is her red lipstick.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like that idea to have something that is a touch tied in. So,
Yeah.
what are some examples here? We had a question here. I'm just going to put it up here. I can't tell who the questions are for because of the privacy on the groups. But what should someone starting out begin with for personal branding? So that's a pretty broad question. But if somebody
Yeah.
is just starting out, what advice do you give?
I would, from an online perspective, I would certainly, we do this in our workshops. We actually tell people to couple up with the person next to them and Google each other. What shows up? What shows up for your brand? What shows up when someone has a look at, and get other people to interpret how they see you. And 9 times out of 10, it's the whole Macaulay Culkin, it's complete shock horror. So put yourself in the shoes of the people that might be looking for your expertise or for you or your skills, and see what comes up, and then ask yourself, is there some work I need to do on my digital footprint? And I think the other thing is really to start thinking about uncovering your story. What is your story? How did you get into your need? What is your educational background? And really, what is your purpose? What's your mission? Why are you trying to do what you're trying to do right now? When people come to Delightful, and we don't say to them, why do you want this job? But we're trying to understand how they'll fit in culturally, and is it because they need the job to pay the bills? That's not kind of the attitude that we want. We want to see people who have purpose and want to be able to work with us to help change the world through the work that we do with our clients and things like that. So really thinking about your story and your purpose and your mission helps with the branding aspect. We put our clients through the same kind of process that you would a corporate brand. So we put them through a process which ekes out what is their vision for the world, how do they want to, what's their legacy going to be, what's their current mission, what are they going to be doing for the next 2 to 5 years in order to realize that legacy. What are their unique qualities? What are their unique capabilities? And then, we whittle that down to elevator pitches. So really understanding what it is that you do in a nutshell, but just make it not boring. So I'm going to an event tonight, and when somebody says, what do you do? I'm not going to say, I'm the CEO of Delightful Communications, or I'm a CEO of a marketing agency. I'm going to say, I help businesses and their leaders become more discoverable, shareable, and memorable. And so it's just, it's just a way of thinking and positioning yourself that makes people want to know more.
Yeah. Okay, so we have about 5 more minutes, and if anybody wants to ask another question, put it up in the comments, and we'll ask. But while I want to touch on a couple other things. So, what are some examples of fails when it comes to personal branding that we should avoid, or a specific example? And then when you're finished, before we end the interview, I would love to hear a little bit more about if you could share a little bit more about Delightful in your agency.
Yeah. So the fails that I see are people that who are not thinking about their audience when they broadcast stuff. I probably line up 99 more tweets than I actually tweet, as in, I end up deleting them because I just think, okay, if I'm sending out this opinion or I'm sharing this article or whatever, I'm trying to really make sure that I just don't come across as an idiot, that I'm, we have an acronym at Delightful which is called AURA, and that everything that we put out is authentic, that it's useful, that it's relevant, and that it's actionable. So, read this article or watch this video, or, you know, get out of your desk and walk around the block twice because, you need a break, that kind of thing. So the fails that I see are generally people who either look or seem like they're drunk tweeting or something like that, because it's just so crazy. But just thinking about how that reflects badly on their brand.
Yeah.
And I think the other the other kind of failures is those people that do not realize that some of the things that they publish, or some of the opinions that they have, and there's tons of examples of employees who have done this, but they don't realize or think that their opinion when they're at home and not at work still stands for something, still can be screenshotted, still can be shared, and sometimes can still be public. Like, your LinkedIn network is private for connecting to people, but if you comment on a feed or if you comment on an article, then that's going to go public. And there's tons of examples of people, getting fired from companies because, it's been discovered that they've been, communicating in communities and saying silly things. That whole thing on people's Twitters about views are my own. Your views are not your own if you work for a company like Microsoft or like mine, because if you share something stupid and it reflects badly on my business and our values and our principles, then you're gonna have to sling your hook, as we say in England.
Definitely. Okay, so we have a couple questions here. I'm going to put them up. So this is from Celine. Should we combine different aspects of our personal brand under one account or have different ones? Example, I'm a full-time digital marketer, but I'm also a huge fitness enthusiast and pet rescuer. Should I combine all of them or focus on one?
Yes. I'll tell you why, because I don't really believe in having separate Twitter accounts or, for work and my, you can set something up that's dedicated to pet rescuing, that only that particular part of the world or that community is going to go for. But for your personal brand, I'm already wanting to hire you immediately at Delightful, because I think that your other interests just add to how interesting you are, and I want to know more. And I think that that there's too many people out there that think that I've just got to talk about work, 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 and that nobody else is going to be interested. What we're trying to do is humanize people, and create conversation starters and icebreakers. And so the fact that if you combine the two and you're thoughtful about it, I think in the book, called a social media ratio. So 60% of what I'll talk about is work related and 40% is personal, because I want people to know, that I have a life, that I have 2 kids, that, me and my wife own a wildlife sanctuary just not far from Seattle, and that I'm learning all about ducks and beavers and stuff like that, because, I don't want to be boring. I want to be interesting, and I want to be interested in other people, which is why I need to know who that person is, because I want to follow them and see all their pictures.
Okay, great. All right, next question. This is a great segue into the next question. As someone rejoining the PR world after time away, I'm struggling with personal branding versus bragging. I was trained to talk about others, not myself. Where's the line, and how can I cross gracefully without feeling self-indulgent?
Yep, this is another good question. I think in England we call it hiding your light under a bushel. That yes, in your career it's about talking about other people and helping other people shine, but if you've got great stories, if you've got something to offer, it comes back down to authenticity. A lot of people brag about stuff, and it's obvious bragging, but you can kind of tell that that there's slight augmentation there, and perhaps not all of it seems a little bit too good to be true. But if you're authentic about stuff, if you're sharing and commenting about useful things that you've done, that it's relevant to that audience. So, within the PR world, I think there's a whole opportunity for people to learn, especially from the work that you've been learning from Lisa about, PR not just being, about awareness that, we can track this stuff and that we can be accountable and that we can use digital marketing tactics and SEO and all that kind of thing. So again, it's that authentic, useful, relevant, and actionable. As long as you're keeping people taking action and you start slowly and build a brand that people come to for news, information, or advice, and you make yourself available, then that's going to work. But just standing, as I said earlier, just standing on the rooftops, broadcasting, saying, "Look at me," is going to turn people off. So that's why I make myself available for things like this and for speaking opportunities. And I now speak and get, if I'm paid for doing speaking stuff, that all goes to charity and non-profits. Just because my mission in life is to educate and inspire people, and every day I feel really lucky that I've had the career that I've had, and I just want everybody else to be as enthusiastic about their life's work and to maybe learn from some of the things that I've discovered and my amazing network of friends in the industry, like Lisa. I think I've known you 10 years or something by now.
Like you were on the panel in London,
Yeah.
the social butterflies panel, social media butterflies, I think it was.
Yeah.
I know, it's crazy. And we're in the same industry, so I know that you know what I'm talking about now, and I'm sure it crosses over into other industries. But from a personal branding standpoint, and how social media has become so saturated and everybody's on it, I mean, where do you draw the line? I mean, I know where to draw the line, but you see people that are basically using their social media as like therapy and like almost like oversharing. It's okay, like this is really meant for the world to see, like these pages of what's happening, and it's not just once; it's like constantly. And I think that really hurts a personal brand because you're just like, what is really happening with this person?
Yep.
Yeah, but you want to have empathy and compassion and know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. And they're the sort of people that I think I can't cope with this anymore and I just want to unfollow them or unfriend them or mute them or something like that. But then I'm just intrigued as to, and we know who a lot of those people are, of what they,
their personal brand. It's not helping. It's not, you're saying be authentic, but I mean, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And
well, then the point is that you need to have a plan. I'll say mine's been a little more organic in that I do not swear. I do not talk about, I'm not, I'll let you know that we had a bit of an issue. This is a bit random, but we had an issue with our car a couple of weeks ago where a rodent got inside of it and exploded and did $4,000 worth of damage to the car. I'm not going to post that. It's disgusting. I'm not going to post that and solicit a bunch of laughs or sympathy from people. And and I've had family members I don't know, pass away and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to bother other people with that kind of stuff. I like to keep that a little bit closer to home. So yeah, oversharing can actually damage, especially if people that you're potentially working with or could end up being clients or colleagues or employees. That stuff will get discovered and it will end up being a little bit of a a bit of a downer on their decision of how they want to take that relationship further.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we got all the questions. If you just want to share a little bit about Delightful and anything that we should know about what's happening with you, any programs, and we will call it a day.
All right. Yeah. Delightful Communications, 6 years old. It's we call it a modern marketing and digital PR firm. We work a lot with Microsoft and other big technology companies, but the personal branding side of things is starting to grow a lot. We rank #1 for personal branding consultant and agency and things like that. So we've done a lot of SEO on that. And so, yeah, I mean, we've got a bunch of services, and we just recently launched another kind of product service called Co-Create Work, because we see that companies have a lot of opportunity internally around their communications, purpose, culture, things like that. So if you go to the delightfulcommunications.com website, you'll see a whole thing about how my friend Lakita Williams joined us from Amazon recently, how she's helping companies with their corporate culture, their organizational design, and employee experience. So check that out, stay in touch. Thanks again for reading the book, very grateful. And yeah, it's been great talking to you all. Thank you, Lisa, for the opportunity.
And if you are watching the recording of this, and you didn't catch the live, we totally understand. You can still put some questions in the comments, and I'll funnel them to Mel and see if we can get them to answer.
Sure.
And then thank you so much, Mel, for being our guest, for writing the book and giving us the opportunity.
No worries. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everybody. You too.